All right, let's dive into Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Hmm.
You sent in Chapter 5, and wow, this is where things get intense.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge turning point. We've got Victor Frankenstein about to achieve his dream, bringing his creation to life. But the consequences are way more terrifying than he could ever imagine.
The scene is set on a dark November night. Rain, wind. Victor's in his lab, practically vibrating with anticipation. Years of work, and here's the moment of truth.
And Shelley's description of the setting, genius. It's not just background, it totally reflects Victor's inner state. The storm, darkness, isolation, all that dread, it foreshadows the horror coming up.
Yeah, and boy does it ever. Victor flips a switch, basically, and his creation comes to life.
Hmm.
But instead of this beautiful being, he gets something way more grotesque.
Hubris, right. That excessive pride that leads to downfall in Greek tragedy. Victor's ambition blinded him, and now he's facing the horrifying reality of what he's done.
Shelley doesn't hold back on the details either. She talks about the creature's yellow skin, the muscles and arteries showing through, the lustrous black hair and watery eyes in those dun-white sockets. You can practically feel Victor's disgust when he calls his creation a catastrophe and a wretch.
Right. It's like the creature's appearance is a reflection of Victor's own fear and anxieties. A symbol of the dark side of ambition, playing God and the consequences that come with it.
Victor totally freaks out. He just runs from the lab trying to escape, can't sleep, nightmares, can't get the creature out of his head.
It's like the uncanny, right? That feeling when something familiar becomes totally unsettling. The creature is human but monstrous, and that duality is terrifying. It's like that primal fear of the unknown, something we can't quite grasp.
And then, this is chilling, Victor wakes up and the creature is right there in his bedroom, standing over him. Can you imagine that terror?
Oh, the suspense in that scene, the darkness, the shadows, the creature's weird movements, it just creates pure dread. She's playing with our deepest fears, the dark, the unknown, something not human invading our space, and Victor just bolts. Pure fear. It shows how he can't face what he's done. Instead of taking responsibility, he runs and hides.
He doesn't just run from the creature, though, right? It's like he runs from everything safe and familiar, wandering the streets, lost in his own fear. He even quotes Coleridge's Ancient Mariner, compares himself to the guy haunted by the albatross.
Oh, that's a good catch. The Ancient Mariner, it adds so much to Victor's mental state. Like the mariner, he's done something terrible against nature, and that guilt, it isolates him. Shelley uses that literary reference so well.
Then, just when Victor's at his lowest, a little light, his friend, Henry Clerval, shows up in Ingolstadt, full of excitement and optimism. Such a contrast to everything around Victor.
Clerval's more than just a plot device. He's everything Victor's lost, right? Innocence, joy, connection to the world, all that stuff Victor threw away.
And Clerval being there does help Victor a bit. At least he can forget the terror for a little while. But it doesn't last, does it? Even with Clerval, Victor feels like he's being watched. Like the creature's always there, hiding.
That's trauma, It changes you. Victor's not that ambitious scientist anymore. He's all guilt, fear, paranoia.
It all explodes when they go back to Victor's apartment. He's sure the creature's waiting. You can feel the fear building. It's almost like he wants to see the creature to make his fear real.
Yeah, this is where Victor really starts to lose it. His rational mind is gone. He's giving in to the fear. He's on the edge of a breakdown. That meeting with the creature, it really messed him up.
And the breakdown happens. Even though the apartment's empty, Victor goes crazy, laughing like a maniac, seeing things, then collapses.
That's a turning point in the book. It's like Victor's officially going mad. The cost of his pride and the trauma. Shelley's showing us that he's going to suffer mentally and emotionally.
And poor Clerval has no clue what's going on. Nothing about the creature or the real reason Victor's like this. He takes care of Victor, nurses him back from the fever. He's a good friend.
That's true friendship, right? A bit of light in all that darkness Victor's in. It reminds us that human connection matters, especially when you're alone and feeling hopeless.
Makes you think about how the creature's all alone, doesn't it? Victor created him, then rejected him. Left him to deal with a world that doesn't get him.
And that rejection's going to shape the creature, all that bitterness and anger. It's going to lead to bad things. Shelley's setting up this huge conflict, creator versus creation, showing how pride and neglect can lead to tragedy.
As the chapter goes on, Victor gets better, thanks to Clerval and the coming of spring, but something still feels wrong, like something bad's about to happen.
Shelley's good at that, creating tension. Even when things seem okay, you know it won't last. We know the creature's out there, just waiting.
And then Victor gets a letter from Elizabeth, his cousin. It's full of love and worry. It reminds us that there's a normal world out there, a world Victor shut himself off from.
Elizabeth, she represents everything normal, but her letter also makes things more intense because we know Victor's secret is going to come out.
Chapter 5 ends with a question mark. Victor's healthy, but he's messed up inside. The creature's a shadow hanging over him. What a cliffhanger.
That's Mary Shelley. Gothic horror, psychological stuff, big questions about life and creation, all in one chapter. She makes a world that's both normal and scary, with characters that are bad, but you feel for them.
I keep thinking about responsibility. Victor made this creature, good and bad, all mixed up, and just left it. Didn't want anything to do with it.
And that's the problem. Victor rejecting the creature, it sets everything bad in motion. He wouldn't accept it, wouldn't teach it, wouldn't love it, so the creature's doomed to be lonely and miserable.
It's like a parent abandoning their kid. The creature needed guidance, love, all of that, but all it got was fear and disgust. No wonder it's so angry.
Makes you wonder about good and evil, doesn't it? Is the creature born bad, or did it become bad because of how it was treated? Shelley makes us think about how complicated people are, and how what we do can have awful consequences we never meant to cause.
You can see the conflict between science and nature starting here, too. Victor goes too far trying to figure out life. He messes with things he shouldn't and ends up with this monster.
It's like a warning. Don't be too ambitious. Don't think you can control nature. Shelley wrote this when science was changing the world fast, and she was worried about what could happen if science goes too far.
Chapter 5 ends with Victor getting better, but we know it's not over. The creature's still out there, and Victor can't escape what he's done.
It's a great ending. You know something bad's coming. Shelley keeps us hooked. What's going to happen to the creature? Will Victor finally admit what he did? Can he ever really get away from all this?
This has been great, talking about Frankenstein with you.
Hopefully you understand Mary Shelley better now, and how amazing this book is.
And if you're like us, you can't wait to see what happens next. So keep reading, and we'll see you next time. It's amazing. One chapter and so much happens. Gothic horror, the psychology, the whole question of what life is and who gets to create it.
And it all fits together perfectly.
Hmm?
Shelley, she knew how to tell a story. This world, it's like our world, but twisted. And these characters, they do bad things, but you understand why.
I keep coming back to Victor's responsibility. He makes this creature, this mix of good and bad, then just dumps it like it's nothing to him.
And that's the core of it. Victor rejecting the creature, that's what starts all the trouble. If he'd accepted it, taught it, loved it even, things might have been different.
Like a parent walking out, right? The creature needed someone. But instead of love, it gets fear, disgust. Of course it's going to be angry.
It really makes you think. What is evil? Is the creature born that way, or did Victor make it evil by how he acted? Shelley doesn't give us easy answers. She's saying people are messy, and good intentions can still lead to terrible outcomes.
There's that science versus nature idea here, too. Victor wants to know the secrets of life, but he goes too far. Messes with forces he doesn't understand, and what does he get? A monster.
A warning sign, right. Don't mess with nature. Don't think you're smarter than it. Shelley was writing when science was changing everything. People were excited, but also scared of where it could lead. Like, what if we screw up big time?
So chapter 5 ends with Victor sort of okay again, but we know it's not the end. The creature's still out there. And Victor can't get rid of the guilt. It's always with him.
It's like, even though he's recovering, bad stuff's coming. That's how Shelley keeps us hooked. What about the creature? Will Victor ever own up to what he did? And can he really outrun what he started?
This deep dive has been awesome. Thanks for breaking down Frankenstein with me.
Yeah, I hope you all see how brilliant Mary Shelley was. And this story, it still matters today.
If you're like us, you're going to run and grab the book to see what happens next. So, happy reading, everyone, and until next time, keep on diving deep.